Welcome to the Gamer Dad podcast, where we talk about all things in gaming. Yes, gaming. We're expanding into video games this month. We strive to make things fun, fit into our busy lives, families, keep things casual, and show you how you can too. I am Gamer Dad Bob, a gamer since 1987. Yeah, we're old, okay? We got our first gaming system back then. It was the NES Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt bundle, and I've been hooked ever since. I'm an IT manager, lover of sports. It is hockey playoff season, role-playing games, a father of one very energetic 5-year-old who we can't even get to sit long enough to play a short game of Mario Party. We're working on it, okay? We're working on it.
I'm Jesse Hoagie. I've been a gamer in some capacity since I was 5. And yes, I had E.T. on the Atari. That is not a myth. It really did come out. I am getting my 2 daughters into gaming to the one point where my oldest calls herself Cat Gamer, daughter of Jesse Hoagie, whenever she is online doing something, making me think people are supposed to know me. I have no idea. She thinks I'm bigger than I am, I guess.
Don't you know who I am?
She thinks I'm bigger than I am. That's for sure.
Well, you are tall. This is our first episode on gaming. This is a year in the making. Like, we talked about doing gaming podcasts and everything, and we kind of just put off putting something together. So we put pen to paper here. We're going to have a really fun one for you tonight. And what better way to kick things off than to talk about our first experiences with games back when we were our own kids' ages. So tonight, we are talking about gaming back in the day. So Jesse, if I recall correctly, as you just mentioned, your first console was like a Commodore 64. Then you evolved into an Atari, and apparently your ET also ended up in a landfill with the rest of them, but you had it at some point.
So that bad game.
That predates my first experience with video games by a long shot. Like, you were probably playing video games a year before me based on our age difference and everything. So tell me about a 5-year-old playing on a Commodore 64.
Yeah, so I remember, not like vividly, but I remember it was a Smurfs game, I think, and it was the cartridges went into the side of it, not like the Atari kind of had it on the top. The cartridge went to the side, and you connected it to your TV, and it kind of looked like a little like keyboard, kind of all in one type thing, and then you had like a game joystick thing coming off of it. And I remember sitting in my parents' bedroom, staring up at this black and white TV, playing it.
Was it like a side scroller kind of choose your own adventure sort of thing?
Yeah, it was like a side scroller. And then I remember my dad getting the Atari I remember it had this case, and then the Atari was in the middle of it, and surrounding it was all these games. It had like little slots for all the games, which are also cartridges at the same time. And I don't want to say we had every Atari game, but we had absolute tons of games. Tons and tons. And there's my dog, if anybody's watching. But we
Dog
had
spotted.
So many games, like Pong, we had Breakout, we had name it, and we pretty much had it. And we had the joystick that was like a joystick with one little orange button, and we had the kind of one that turned. You could kind of for tennis or for
I know what you're talking about.
And then you had the button on the side where you hit it to engage. We had all that.
Wow.
And I had it all up, and I kept it all up until I went to college, and then my dad moved out of the house he was in, and he threw it all away.
Oh, I just chucked it.
And I'm like, you knew how much that's worth, right?
And that's an interesting irony, because your father, as you've talked about in our other podcasts, was a collector. A collector of things.
Collecting sports cards, yeah. Like, his entire bedroom was decked out with sports memorabilia that were well over $100,000 worth, like, if he sold it all. And yet he threw all my stuff away.
And he was just like, nah, screw this Commodore 64. It's not worth anything.
Nah.
Oh, man. So what about when you moved to the NES? When did you get that?
So I got it I think I had to be in...
Did you get the Power Pad combo?
No, it was actually the same combo as you, with the gun and Duck Hunt. I got it when we moved in out of my dad's house when my parents got divorced. I remember Mario. I remember Duck Hunt. I remember putting the gun up to the TV and thinking
same.
It
I cheated so bad with that. I had no aim. I'd play the clay pigeon one, and there'd be like plastic marks on the glass of the TV for me dragging the gun on it and doing the thing.
Nowadays, if you touch TV like that, it'll ruin it.
Man, could you imagine? Could you imagine our kids doing that?
You'd literally take the gun, throw it at the TV, and it would break the gun.
Break the gun. Yeah, that glass was not going anywhere.
No, and I remember vividly, like between that, I think that was. I don't think you had to blow in the cartridges much in Super Nintendo, but like the cartridges wouldn't work. You had to take it out, go like a harmonica, and pop it back. Even though it did nothing, it
And
was probably
everybody was like,
placebo.
that is actually bad for it. You're gonna oxidize it by getting the moisture in there and everything. We would definitely do that. We would take Q-tips, dip them in alcohol, and kind
Yep,
of
I did
rub
that too.
if we needed to sometimes. And the dust and stuff that would come off that, it would turn the Q-tip brown. But none of that worked as well as just the old reseat the cartridge, put it back in. But man, I used to get like aggro with it if the games were freaking out on me and they wouldn't launch. I'd be like,
Yeah.
jamming it back in there, and slam the top of it. It would pop back up, and it was just the Nintendo was like so sturdy, so insanely sturdy. You couldn't break that
Between
thing.
the console and the actual gamepad itself,
Yeah,
like you could use that thing as a weapon if you wanted to.
you swing it around, right?
Yep, on a cord.
Those controllers were extraordinarily sturdy. They were really small. Like, have you ever held one today? Like a Nintendo controller?
It's like
You're up here like
I think
this,
as small as a Switch Joy-Con.
It's really crazy to think. And those things felt gigantic to us kids.
Yeah.
I know we don't have this question, but what controllers and accessories did you get for the for the Nintendo? Like, because I remember when the Turbo controller came out, where it had the
Turbo,
the two extra buttons above.
Yep. I had the Turbo. I had, I think, four. I want to say I had four Nintendo controllers. I only had the one gun because we didn't need more than one gun. I didn't get like the power pad.
I didn't either.
Was it Nintendo? Did Nintendo have the glove, or was that?
Yeah, I got a power glove. That thing was such a piece of trash.
I remember I got the glove like years later. Like it was like on a garage sale or something like that, and it never worked.
Like, have you seen the movie 8-Bit Christmas?
No.
It's hysterical. It'll take you back. But there's a power glove scene in it, and it's absolute garbage, and the kid hates it, and it's just it hits home so well because I remember.
Did the Nintendo have the VR thing too? That everything was in red.
So that was its own console.
Oh, okay.
And it gave people migraines because of all the red.
Yeah.
Those are really rare, hard to come by.
How much stuff from our kids or from our childhood is rare now? And like, if we just saved it instead of getting rid of it, we'd have like thousands of dollars of stuff.
That's the thing. Like, so my Nintendo ended up going to my best man before he was my best man, but he was my best friend growing up. We had played video games together all growing up. And that's who got my Nintendo and SNES and all the games that I still held on to that I didn't sell in a garage sale. He might still have it. I'd have to text him like in the middle of this broadcast to see if he still has it or not. But I know he got it refurbished and he was holding on to it, but I don't know if he still has it because last time I saw it was when he was living in New York. Did you come to my bachelor party?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that the one that we ran to the ice cream truck?
Yes.
Yeah. Drunk. Yeah.
That's whose house. That's the last place I saw it. So I don't know if it made it to Texas with him when he moved there. So let's piggyback off this. What was the technology like? Let's describe this for our younger listeners here who are going to be like, damn boomers, but what was the technology like? I don't remember how the Atari hooked up, to be honest with you.
So I remember very vividly. So it had this box and then two wires that came off, and the end of each wire had these two prongs.
Okay, so it was the same as the NES.
Same as the NES, yep. And then it go in the back of the TV, you had two screws. You put the prongs in, you screw it in, you turn your channel on your TV to channel 3 or 4. I think it was 3 on my
Whatever
TV.
the switcher said you could do.
Yep. Yeah, and then you go.
Yeah, that the Nintendo was the same way. I remember that. And I think technically you're hooking up to like, what was it? Like the antenna extender?
The antenna. Yep.
Basically. So back in the day, TV came over radio waves.
Rabbit ears. Yeah.
The rabbit ears, right? There was no cable.
Before cable. Yeah, before cable. You can still tune into that stuff. It's still actually over because if you're close enough to like a major metropolitan area, you could hook up a Plex server.
Yes.
And have an antenna into your Plex server to get local channels and record off them.
Yep.
And I think they're in HD.
Yes, they are. The antennas are HD. One of my buddies I used to work with did that for a little while. I thought it was a little too much for me. Plus, I was living in apartments at the time. So yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the size of these TVs, because I mean, I remember playing Contra on like a 19-inch screen. I mean, it was not big. It might not have even been 19. I'd have to text my mother. She's probably going to tell me it was like a 16-inch TV in the kitchen or something. You know, it's just
the one in my parents' room, it was a black and white TV that was 13, and then the one in the living room was a black and white TV that was 19. So like, when I first started, it was black and white TVs. Even though like this was the 80s, like colors was out for a while, but it was still pretty expensive back then to get a color TV.
Yep.
So
I can only think of like, we grew up in such a weird era where like having a TV was still a luxury.
Yep.
Even in the 80s, like, and having more than one, like Back to the Future when he's back in the 50s, but like even in the 80s, you know, you have more than one TV. Yeah, I've got 3 of them. Oh, you must be rich. You know, we had one in the kitchen and one downstairs. I don't even know if my parents had one in their room yet at that point. I don't remember very well, because as a little kid in the 80s with boomer parents, you weren't allowed in their room. And now our kids have no boundaries, right, Jesse?
I mean, I try to get my kids off the bed. And my kids are never going to experience hopping into your parents' bed when it's a water bed.
Oh my
God!
Parents
have a water bed?
Yes.
Yep. And them yelling and screaming, "Don't pop the bed!"
Yep. Quit moving around. You're shaking the whole bed. It was just the kid can't get comfortable, and the whole bed is moving like you're on a friggin' boat.
Well, we had 2 TVs, and the TV in the living room wasn't just the TV. It was like the whole cabinet thing.
Yep.
Like you could buy TVs that had like a TV in the center. It was a little bitty thing, and then just giant wood paneling cabinets all that surrounded the whole thing.
And those things weighed about 600 pounds.
Oh yeah. That's the cabinet itself, and the TV itself, because we're talking CRT,
mm-hmm.
like the big tube that are like probably, I don't know how many feet behind it, that weighed itself probably close to 100 pounds.
Yeah, we had something like that. The speakers were built into it in the cabinet, and it was. I remember it was such a big deal. It was a 32-inch TV, color TV. I don't remember what brand it was, but that once we got that, the Nintendo moved to that from the kitchen. And then it became a problem. Why did it become a problem? Because that's the TV everybody watched TV on. And, you know, your 6-year-old at the time, 7-year-old at the time wanting to play video games is a problem. So the Nintendo got moved back and forth in our household. It got moved between kitchen TV and main TV. And I distinctly remember playing Nintendo on the big TV a lot, and me taking over the TV essentially. And I used to get in fights with my parents, you know, like a 5-6-year-old tends to do. And it was like, get you need to stop playing. Your father wants to watch whatever, Magnum PI. I don't freaking know.
Or my dad, I want to watch the basketball game. Get off the TV.
And it was so contested. So, okay, fine. Get the little screwdriver. And we're little kids doing this, mind you. You know, a little 6-year-old with a Phillips screwdriver, unscrewing in the back, taking the fork things out, moving into the kitchen, grabbing the Nintendo, making sure you got power outlets, and you got like the 3 plug extenders plugged into the wall behind the TV for everything, and you're plugging it all in and hoping you don't pop a circuit. I mean, this was all real. Like the sort of stuff that you see in movies about the 80s and these video games, they do a pretty good job.
Yeah, and I remember fighting with my sister, like who was going to have either the TV or who was going to play the games or whatever, and then having like friends over and stuff. Fighting what game we were going to play and who was going to play, who's player 1. Like we fought who was player 1. Even though it didn't matter. You still play the game.
Well, it did matter though. I mean, do you want to be Mario or Luigi?
Oh yeah, and are you going to select, like, are you the one that's going to select the stage or whatever that we're on, depending on the game?
Yeah, like nobody wanted to be Luigi. F that guy. Nope. I want to be Mario. And it was so fun. I remember that when I was playing Mario Brothers with my dad. I never wanted to be Luigi. I had to be Mario. To this day, I don't think I've still beaten the original Mario Brothers game. Super Mario Brothers. Mario Brothers was a different game altogether.
I beat Mario 3.
I beat Mario 3 a long time down the road.
Barely beat Mario. I don't think I barely even played Mario 2. That was the one with like the turnips
or
whatever.
2 was so much fun. My cousin Dave used to fly through that game. They'd come over for like New Year's or something. I'd be like, Dave, can you beat Mario 2? And I'd just watch.
Yeah, that
Just
was a
watch.
early Twitch back then.
Yeah,
We used to sit there and watch.
in person Twitch. We'd watch each other play video games.
When you got your own TV, what was it like?
Oh my gosh. So I didn't get my own TV till late middle school, I'm thinking. Right around the time Chrono Trigger came out, which is coincidentally my favorite game. But I didn't have my own TV until we had SNES going on, and probably late into that. Because Chrono Trigger was what, 96, 97 in the States? I'm going to look this up.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Chrono
never actually played the game.
Trigger. Oh, it was earlier than I thought. March 95, but I don't think I got it until Christmas 1996. I think this game was sitting percolating for a while before I got it. So we're going to say 96. So that's high school, Jesse.
Yeah, I was a freshman in high school in
96.
97.
I was 96.
Yeah, I was 97.
I think I was a freshman in high school when I got my own TV in my room.
So I didn't get my own TV in my own room until I got it. So my parents were divorced. So I was going in between. And my mom's, it was an apartment. It was like a townhouse. And we had a downstairs family room. We had a TV down there, but I didn't have one in my room. And my dad put one in my room. Mm-hmm. They were always competing, who could treat the kid better. And my dad put one in my room. And then I had an SNES, and I had the Atari, and I had a Sega Genesis connected to it.
I had a Sega and a Super Nintendo also, because Sonic was huge.
Oh yeah, I played
Everybody
Sonic.
loved Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh yeah, Sonic. I think Street Fighter maybe.
I played Mortal Kombat 1 on the Sega Genesis. It played better. Mortal Kombat 2 played better on the Super Nintendo, but Mortal Kombat 1 way better on the Sega Genesis.
And I remember when Mortal Kombat came out, how controversial it was.
Insanely controversial.
Like with the blood and the fatalities and stuff, and parents, outlawing it. And I think there was talks at school about it, and
there were Senate hearings and stuff over that game. Oh, yeah. I seem to remember. And do you remember the blood code? Do you remember what it was?
I don't remember the code itself, but I remember having it and putting it in.
I got you, chat. ABACABB on Sega. Abacab.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, that turned the blood on for Mortal Kombat, and and of course you had to turn the blood on, especially to impress your friends.
That was the point.
That game was so controversial. Tasmania on Sega Genesis was a terrible, terrible game, but I had it anyway. Tried to play it. What else? Golden Axe? Did you play Golden Axe on Sega Genesis?
No,
that was a port from the arcades. So a lot of the arcade games ported better to the Sega Genesis than the Super Nintendo.
So I'm looking up games because I'm drawing a blank on a lot of the games I used to play.
Well, we're getting old, and those games were 30 years ago.
Afterburner. You remember Afterburner?
I never played that. I played Top Gun on the NES.
Top Gun on the NES, yep.
You could never land on the friggin' aircraft carrier as a kid because you didn't understand the instructions.
There was actually a Back to the Future game on Sega. I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't play that.
A lot of Batman games, believe it or not.
There were Ghostbusters games.
Yep. I remember Ghostbusters.
Battletoads was friggin' impossible. That game was so hard.
There's a lot of games on there. Was NBA Jam on the Sega?
Yeah, it was on both.
So I feel like it was. Double Dragon. Oh my god. Oh, Double Dragon. I used to play so much Double Dragon.
That was NES.
I was on Sega too.
Oh, really?
Yep, it was
I wonder what version of that was.
February 1992, Double Dragon.
Wow.
There was Double Dragon 2, The Revenge, Double Dragon 3, the arcade game, Double Dragon 4. Holy cow, so many Double Dragon.
Yeah, there were a ton. It's going to be Quadruple Dragon at that point. And the games were fun. They were just your side-scroller.
Gym.
Oh, remember I played that. Gym? It was hard. It was hard. Did you, now, in the kid world, there were haves and have-nots, right? Kids had consoles and some kids just simply did not. And your friends came over and you played games or whatever. But did you ever get requested to bring your consoles to your friend's house?
Oh, yeah. We'd start, if I had it or vice versa. If they had it and I didn't, I'd say, hey, can you bring it over? And then I remember hearing the parents in the background, is he just using you for your game or whatever? Right. And then when we both had the consoles, it was like, hey, bring this game over. Hey, bring this game over. You know? And then I remember my friend Matt, he had, and this is a little later, a Sega CD or Sega Saturn.
One of my buddies in middle school had Sega CD.
Yeah, we would stay up in his living room. We'd sleep on the couch and stay up and play Sega Saturn all night. So that was a big thing. Like, you would have sleepovers and just play video games all night.
Yeah, that's what we did. That's
And then
exactly
progressed
what we did.
to playing Magic all night.
Yeah, we haven't really changed, have we? That's exactly. And birthday parties. Like I hosted a birthday party one year, and I think my parents like rented an extra SNES or two, and we had like 3 TVs on the floor in our living room, on like milk
Early
crates
LAN parties.
and plugged in, and we just everybody was able to play video games. I remember that distinctly because my mom went out and got a custom cake made for me, and it was a Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Mm-hmm. So it was Link, and it was really, really well done. I bet she still has pictures of that somewhere. But that was that birthday party. It was just a bunch of us kids, probably half my football team because I was playing football at the time, and we just played video games at the birthday party, and everybody had a blast. Everybody got equal turns. I know we played a lot of Tecmo Super Bowl.
Tecmo Bowl, yeah.
That got super competitive. Tecmo Bowl. When we got older and it was on like the SNES, like Tecmo Super Bowl 3 or something, we held like Tecmo Bowl tournaments.
When was the first Madden? Like, did you do Madden tournaments?
When did I get the first Madden game? I had a lot of football games. I remember Joe Montana Sports Talk Football on the Sega Genesis.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
And it was so bad. And it was awesome at the same time because they programmed the talking in. So like the guy would be, I think it was like, God, who was with John Madden? Why can't I think of his name right now? Oh, this is horrible. See, don't get old, chat, because you can't even friggin' remember simple things like who co-hosted with John Madden. Pat Summerall.
Yeah.
It sounded like Pat. I didn't get the Google out. It almost sounded like him, but it would be like calling signals, and the game would be like hut 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 hut
yeah.
hut hut.
Yeah, I remember that. Trying to fake out people.
Dropping back. He throws the bomb, and it was so funny.
So the first Madden football, June 1st, 1988.
1988. I did not have any until the second gen console. Well, are they technically second gen?
It came out for the Commodore 64, Commodore 128, Apple II, and MS-DOS.
DOS Madden. I seem to remember playing Madden in like 93 on the Sega Genesis because I had like NHL 93, NHL 94. Mm-hmm. Those were peak hockey games too, by the way. And Madden, as we got older and more aggressive, I may or may not have put a couple holes in my drywall in my bedroom from getting upset at video games.
Oh yeah,
also
throwing controllers, punching walls.
Punching walls was, you know, you hope you don't hit a stud and break your hand. Yeah, I remember playing. Now this was Madden on PlayStation 2 that caused me to do this because we were old enough to be drinking at the time.
Yep.
But definitely put a hole in my wall drunk playing Madden. Yeah, that was bad. Especially because I just covered it up with a poster. Parents went to sell the house. There was a hole in the wall after they took the posters down.
I remember putting holes in the wall. My dad and I were playing darts, and he kicked a hole in the wall.
Oh my gosh. That's an adult problem.
Got competitive with darts.
Yeah.
So how easy were these games to pick up and play back then?
They came with instruction manuals. I mean, that's something that we don't have anymore.
So am I the only one that used to take those instruction manuals to the toilet?
Oh, yeah. It was great toilet reading. It was like that, or it was the Magic the Gathering how to play guides, right?
Yep.
I mean, they were great toilet reading. And the SNES ones, they were taller and they were more like, short novels and everything. Because you got to remember, games back in the day didn't have tutorials. There was not a built-in tutorial section to these games. You just start the game. So if you can't figure it out on your own, you better be reading that instruction manual. And believe it or not, some of the instruction manuals were actually really helpful with things that, tell you how to play the game. So funny story. My buddy Brian, sorry, Brian, if you ever listen to this, he's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. He had a game on, I think, his Sega CD or something. And it was a first person kind of RPG. And I think it was called Ark the Shining.
This is before Ark Survival.
Ark the Shining.
Ark the Shire. Early Lord of the Rings game.
Shining the Holy Ark. That's what it was. God, that sounds like a euphemism.
It does.
It was Sega CD. Yeah, Shining the Holy Ark. So he had this game. And I met him when I was working at the ballpark, working for the Albany Colony Diamond Dogs. And we talked about, favorite games and everything. And he talked about this game, and it was really cool. And he showed me. But he goes, but I'm stuck at this one place. I can't figure out how to get on the other side of this chasm because it turns me, blah, blah, blah. So I'm sitting at his house, and I look at the game. I pop open the instruction manual. This is Teenage Bob. There's a strafe button. You could walk sideways so that the thing that turned you in the right direction, so you were able to walk past it. He played this game for so long, and his characters were so over-leveled because he just kept getting into random encounters and stuff, that once we got him past that, he said the rest of the game was too easy. But read the instruction manuals, kids. It'll tell you how to do things. It was so funny. Such a funny moment. He's like, wait a minute. And the irony there is, so they built that into the game, but that was literally the only place you ever had to utilize the strafe option to walk sideways. And who would have thought? You pick up a game and you play.
You didn't have Google. You couldn't look it up.
Man.
Did you ever use the notes section in the instruction manuals?
I think I wrote some cheat codes or something like that in the notes section. Passcodes, definitely, like God, Faxanadu. You ever heard of Faxanadu? No. They gave you passwords, or Kid Icarus gave you passwords. I would put those in the back. Even Punch Out. Punch Out would give you passwords.
Punch Out? Yeah.
Yep. No, not the Mr. Dream version. We had Mike Tyson's Punch Out when we were kids. Mm-hmm. Before he was accused of sexual assault, and Nintendo stripped him from the game. Yeah, I use those sections, I think, a lot for passwords, and some of them were cheat codes, or not necessarily cheat codes. Konami code, up,
Did
down,
you ever
down,
have a Game
left,
Shark?
right. I had a Game Genie.
Game Genie, yeah, Game Shark, Game Genie. That was those two.
Yeah, they were in competition with each other. I had a Game Genie for the NES and SNES, and they were a lot of fun. For me nowadays, if I go and play the retro games, they're so friggin' hard still. I turn the Game Genie stuff on in the emulators.
You get to turn right on the emulator. Yeah,
I can't play The Legend of Zelda now. Are you friggin' kidding me? And yet I played it as a kid.
Similar in like because in Bethesda games, like you have a console, so you hit the tilde and it brings up console, and you type in console commands
like God mode.
Yep. So like that's what I was just gonna say. If I can part apart where I'm like I can't beat this, I type in hit the console TGM, total God mode, beat it, take it off.
Yep. What game had God mode, which was I Am Cornholio? Was that one of the Duke Nukem games?
I think it was Duke Nukem 3D, maybe. It wasn't Forever. I think it was 3D.
Duke Nukem Forever never came out, did it?
No, it did.
Cheat code. I am
Easter egg in Duke Nukem 3D. I think it was 3D. I Am the Great Cornholio. I think it was 3D. Yeah.
Maybe it was Doom. I don't know.
Yep. The God mode cheat. DN Cornholio.
That's what it was.
Yep. Duke Nukem 3D.
Oh, that's so funny.
That one and like Doom, those were pretty controversial too because of the blood. Now Doom was only on PC, I think. I don't think it came to consoles back then.
I don't remember it being there. Duke Nukem had boobs. I remember that distinctly. Because we used to just go up to the strippers in the game, and you can give them money, and Duke Nukem goes, "Shake it, baby."
Yep.
And it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. But
I mean, it was better than turning it to the Skinemax channel and getting the blurry,
the Spice Channel. That's right.
Yeah, Spice Channel. Oh my god!
Like the opening scene of American Pie. That also is real, by the way, people. If you've never, if you don't believe American Pie, that movie's aged well for me. I don't think it's aged well for the younger generations. I bet they watch that and they go, "This is friggin' dumb." Meanwhile, we're like, "Oh crap! I did a lot of that stuff."
We did.
I didn't hump a pie, but I mean, we did a lot of stupid stuff. Instruction manuals were good. Some games were harder than others when you started them up. Some of the games that were really hard for me. What section do I have that in? Oh, that's later. Okay, I don't want to jump ahead because I do want to talk about some of the hardest games I played.
So
But
for me, like you probably never played it, but Pitfall,
yes, I know exactly Pitfall.
it
I
was
remember that game. It was
possible,
so hard. So hard.
impossible.
Or what about the famous blaster-enabled game Gumshoe?
I don't think I played Gumshoe.
That game was awful.
So,
You,
and it, like I said before, ET, like that was, I think, it was awful because it was just broken, but it was just there was no point.
so
There's
Gumshoe,
literally no point.
Gumshoe was interesting because you know Flappy Bird,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So that's essentially Gumshoe, except you have to shoot your dude with the zapper to keep him floating or jumping.
Oh, really?
You have to shoot obstacles in his way. You shoot bad guys. You shoot collectibles. It was insane the amount of multitasking you had to do for that game. I'll have to watch and see if I can find like a tool assisted speed run.
You could use the Nintendo gun.
Yeah, that game
came out in 1986.
Holy shit, we had it.
It was an arcade
Pitfall.
game. It was actually an arcade game before it was the NES game.
Oh, we had Pitfall too, Jesse, and that game was so hard because like there was no map. By the way, there was no map.
So in 2015, speaking of Gumshoe, an article for some Uprooks magazine ranked Gumshoe as the worst of the NES black box releases.
Yes,
because of the game mechanics and instant kill pits, calling it one of those lousy zapper games where you have to protect a dumbass character who charges forward constantly, oblivious to the dangers around him.
Did I tell you or did I tell you? I absolutely nailed that. Why do I remember this? I don't know, guys. This is just where I'm at. In
2013, an article in IGN included Gumshoe on the list of the 10 best, most important, and most interesting and most unusual lesser-known games.
So it's like the best of the worst and unknown games.
Best of the
sure.
worst.
So let's talk a little bit about IGN and things like that. So back in the day, we had television commercials helping us decide what games we wanted to play. Right. So what was the hardest part for choosing a game for you back in the day? Like when you were like, all right, this is the next game I want to get. How did you come to that conclusion? How did you decide that?
I didn't get a whole lot of time to watch TV. So because my parents would always hog it. So I had to get it at friends' houses. And between that and magazines, that's the only place I knew about games. And my dad, his magazines were Playboy, and then my mom's were like jewelry magazines.
Well, Playboy advertised video games.
They did, but try to tell that to a 10-year-old or whatever I was. Like my dad didn't think I wanted to look at the video games.
Yeah.
But so I almost exclusively got all my gaming stuff off of friends' houses because I wasn't allowed to watch my own things at TV like as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I barely got to watch Saturday morning cartoons. You know, as I got older, I did, but as a kid, I didn't.
Really? What was stopping you from watching them as a kid?
My sister always did. She watched her crap, and then my mom would watch it. So I would just be in my room playing with G.I. Joes or whatever. So, but I exclusively got it almost all from my friend's house.
Okay.
Like watching TV there, seeing their magazines that they had, and buying what they had.
What about, like, did you ever get to just like do you remember KB Toys?
Oh, I love KB Toys.
Okay. Do you remember going in there or Toys R Us and just going to the wall of video games?
EB Games.
Yep.
Yeah, I would do that and say, you know, oh no, this one has blood. No, can't do that. You know,
like so the wall of games, and then they had just the paper slips at Toys R Us, right? Yep. Where you take the paper up to the counter, they go into the cage, and they get the game out for you and everything.
Yep. Man, and what about going to Blockbuster and renting games for like the weekend?
Yes. So I was going to bring that up later on, but we can definitely talk about renting games. Yeah, I didn't get it in our notes, but it dawned on me as we were talking. Renting games was just the pinnacle of things for you.
I sound so old and it just cringe in my head, but like I can't think of anything better than going with friends, having like the friends' parents drive you over to the Blockbuster, rent a game, get a bag of Doritos, get a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew, getting a pizza, and playing a game because we only had a couple days to play it because you rented it.
Yep.
And just I'd call and hey, Mom, Dad, I'm going to stay over at so and so's house. You know, Jeremy and Chris both have this game. They were a couple houses down. Man, those were the days.
You got it. That's it. We went to a little place off of Central Ave called Super Video. Obviously, you were living in the Watertown area, but this place was in Colony, and it was a mom pop video store. But they had games and consoles to rent, and every time my parents would go to rent a movie, I wouldn't let them walk out of there without me renting a video game also. And you're right, you get them for like 2-3 days, and sometimes you turn a game on and like in the SNES days, you get someone else's save.
Yep.
And you're like, do I just start playing here? Do I start a new game? Man, I'll never forget my first intro into Final Fantasy was Super Nintendo Final Fantasy. The original Final Fantasy I had and owned on the console. I bought that game. Well, I didn't buy it. I got it for a gift because of Nintendo Power.
Mm-hmm.
So my father got me, if we're going to talk about choosing games, my father got me Nintendo Power from the first issue. I had the one with the claymation Mario for Super Mario 2 on the cover. I had those. So all of my advertising I got right in Nintendo Power. You know, there was the controversial cover for Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest where the dude's holding a severed head.
Mm-hmm.
I had all of those and the bonus Final Fantasy strategy guide that came out with it. So that's how I followed along with that game. I had every copy of Nintendo Power probably through 100 versions. Oh my God. Volumes.
Can you guess how much that first issue Nintendo Power goes
please don't tell me it's more than $100.
Add a couple zeros.
You're shitting me.
Nope. So
what condition?
So I'm looking at it right now. I mean, granted, this is eBay. This is a 7.5, graded 7.5 Nintendo Power, $6,000.
Killing me.
And then there are other ones here. There's an eBay one that's pretty rough, going for $300. Another one going for $1,000. That's got very rough. You can buy one on Whatnot for $250. There's a graded 5 going for $700. Yeah.
So I gave them to
9.
I gave them to Joe.
5,000.
I gave them to Joe, my best man. Also, he sold them to the video game store in Scotia. I don't remember what that place was called, but he became really close with them. He sold them all to them, of course.
And apparently, that first issue of Nintendo Power had a poster in it.
Sure.
It says right on the cover, free poster inside.
A lot of them did come with posters. I remember ripping them out at the Staples and hanging them on my wall and everything. The Nintendo Powers were how I got most of my advertisement, because they tease and preview games also. You get a sneak peek. You could see they mapped out levels for you, like even of the side scrollers. I remember when Super Metroid came out, like the entire walkthrough for Super Metroid was in a Nintendo Power, and it was just like, okay, this is perfect. I know exactly what to expect. Or even the original Metroid, I think they had a full map on a couple pages, like a 2-page spread. It was insane what that magazine got for you. And then they had like a cheat section. They had like a letters section, and it was really cool. I remember I wrote a letter in about Final Fantasy 3, which is Final Fantasy 6 for you normal people, my favorite Final Fantasy, and telling them that they should turn it into a movie. Like Nintendo owned the rights to it. I didn't realize that I should have been writing to Squaresoft and not Nintendo, but I remember sending them an email from AOL back in the day.
On your dial-up internet.
Yeah, on our dial-up internet. I took so much time to craft and write this email as a kid. It was like a 2-paragraph email, probably like 200 words, and I sent that along. Never got published.
So my only fan thing I ever sent, and this is going to sound cheesy because I think I was in 1999, I sent a letter to Sarah Michelle Gellar because I was huge into Buffy. And she sent an autographed picture back.
See, that's cool.
I still have it.
That's cool. Celebrities doing the right thing. That's really cool. So we beg our parents to get these games, Jesse. In the 1980s, how much was a Nintendo cartridge? Do you remember?
I want to say they were like $80, weren't they?
No, they were $50. $49.99.
So I actually remember, I remember, I know the Commodore was expensive, but I had to look it up before this. The original Commodore 64 when it came out was $600.
Holy shit.
In 1980 money.
Yeah.
$600.
And people are complaining about the price of the Switch 2 right now.
I know, right? Like the original I think it was the Apple II, was $6,000.
That's not real money. in the
these
80s.
these early computer systems back then were not cheap. We're
That's a
talking.
car. That's a
Yeah.
car in the 80s.
Yep. Yep.
You know, that's a Volkswagen Fox, brand new off the assembly line.
You could barely even get a bumper for that these days.
You're right. Yeah, I remember when I had to replace my front bumper on my Scion TC. It cost me $2,200.
Yep.
Well, it cost my insurance. I had to pay for the
Yeah.
deductible, but like $2,200 for a front bumper. You kidding me? $50. And I remember distinctly how much of a barrier that was for
Oh my
not
God.
only a kid with no allowance or very little allowance, but for parents in gift giving.
Yeah,
Like,
so like your birthday was just that.
that
Just the
exactly.
game. That's it.
That's all you're getting, Bobby. That's it.
That's it.
And my family used to friggin' troll me because they'd put the game cartridge in like a JC Penney box with clothes in it.
My parents did that too. I remember that.
And I'd open up the box and it's closed and I'm like, oh God. And I'd look at the clothes and then the Nintendo game would be sitting underneath it. I'm like, oh, I remember that distinctly with Final Fantasy, actually.
So I think I may have told the story, but I remember very distinctly. I think I was 12. It was Christmas, and my mom was married to another guy, stepdad, who's the one that got me into computers. And I remember going through Christmas morning. I wanted an N64 and didn't get it. And then it was done, and he goes, "Oh, wait, I have one more gift for you, Jesse." And he goes down and comes up with this giant, absolutely massive, flat, like about this tall box. It's like, it looked like 4 or 5 pizza boxes big. Ups it down. I'm like, what the frig is this? I open it. In the center is the Nintendo 64, and around it is every single game that came out.
You're kidding.
It would be at least 20 games. I'm like, what? And he's like, and my sister was furious because she didn't get anything near that. Man, it was like, I will never forget that.
That is something. Like, that's an epic gift right there. Because the consoles went for $300 around then, $200-$300.
The games were like 60, 50, 60, $70.
50, 60. Yeah. I remember even to the point when I got into high school. Now you got to remember, gas prices in high school for us were what, $1.29 some places.
Yeah, right.
You know, but I still remember putting a full tank of gas in my car at $25 or whatever it was, and going, man, this is half a video game I'm putting in my car. And all I'm doing is lighting this on fire so I can drive places.
Literally.
Like I feel like this would be better spent. And that's how my high schooler brain went. Every time I'd fill up my car, $25, $30. Man, this could have been a video game.
I didn't get a car until I was in college. So, I mean, I drove around with other friends' cars, but I never had a car. Not until college.
And the consoles, I mean, again, to your point, they weren't cheap. They were not cheap. And I remember specifically trying to think, the first console that I bought for myself was the PS2.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to convince them that I needed a PlayStation because it was just where it was at, and I really wanted to play Final Fantasy VII because that was the game. So I remember we went to BJ's Wholesale Club, and my father got me the Final Fantasy and PlayStation, and that immediately went into my room.
Yeah,
because I had my own TV in my room.
The first console I actually bought, so everything that I had was like given to me or like picked up at a garage sale. But the first one I bought brand new for myself was a GameCube.
Wow,
Nintendo GameCube.
That was my wife's family's big gaming system. They had a GameCube.
Yeah, I still have games. I can see them sitting over there.
I never owned a GameCube, though. I played GameCube a lot.
Little tiny
college.
CDs about like this big.
Yep. And the memory cards were tiny too, man. Those were so easy to lose.
Yep.
Oh, so Jesse, did you, talking about my wife's family playing their stuff, did you play with your family?
Not really. My dad didn't. My mom didn't. My sister would play with me, but we'd fight all the time, so I just kind of stopped. My stepdad there played for a bit sometimes because he was in the military, so whenever he was home, he would play. But I never played. Now I do. Like me and the girls play all the time. I'll play Mario Kart with my wife, but when I was growing up, I never did. Like usually it would gaming was like my escape from my dysfunctional life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would take the game system to wherever I needed to go to get away from everybody and just kind of shut the door and play. So
Does that mean you played mostly single player games?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I rarely played anything unless I played with my friends. It
Friends.
was always single player. Yeah.
Yeah, I played a lot of single player games too, but I was an only child.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where my father and I would play games like baseball or Contra.
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point, it kind of flipped where the child was better than the parent.
Oh, yeah.
Especially
that's why my dad wouldn't play, because he couldn't beat me.
Especially, you know, with the older games and everything, the learning curve started to get steeper and steeper for
Yep.
our parents, even though they were like our age or whatever now. But the learning curve was so steep that the kids started to get better with the games. And I distinctly remember like a tipping point for me was we play Contra, 2-player Contra. And do you remember what would happen when you ran out of lives in Contra, what you could do to the other player?
No, I never really played Contra much.
You could steal lives to get back in the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All you had to do was press the start button and boom, your guy's back in and you stole a life from the other player. And my father used to do that constantly just to keep playing and everything. And I think he knew it antagonized me, and my mother would yell at him, Robert, stop antagonizing him, you know? And it got to that point where we were constantly fighting while playing. So I shifted, to your point, to a lot of one-player games, role-playing games. That's where I went to. My father bought me Dragon Warrior, which is Dragon Quest for those that are familiar with the whole intellectual property. And I played the crap out of that game. And I still maintain to this day that RPGs, because you got to remember back in the day, I'm going to use this a lot back in the day. They didn't have voice actors in these games. They're all text-based.
There's text.
You had to read them. And I still maintain that because of these old school RPGs and everything that were all text-based, even into the PlayStation days, right? I became an extraordinarily fast reader and had very good reading comprehension as a result of all of those RPGs and everything. I'm convinced of it. Because it got to a point where the text was going on the screen too slow for me. And I still have a problem nowadays with modern games, with subtitles. It pisses me off because I read the subtitles so much faster than the spoken word. And I'm just hitting the next button, cutting the character's voice acting off, And that's something I have to deal with. And I think that's partially like ADHD behavior also, because Bob, what's wrong with you? You can't sit and listen to dialogue, like spoken dialogue?
Like just now playing Expedition 33, like I turn the dialogues on and I'm just flipping through it. I'm reading it and then flipping. I don't even listen.
Yep. That's a problem that I'm having right now with modern games, is I read faster than the spoken dialogue, and my brain doesn't want to hear it after I've already read it.
Yep.
It's just the way I process things. It's not good. I remember one of the biggest games that I had a big problem with that was Witcher 3, which,
oh yeah,
I mean, one of my favorite games of all time, but like the dialogue seems to go so much slower than the subtitles in that, and it's like skip,
I'm having that now with the Oblivion remake. Like the dialogue is so slow compared to like the words.
Right. So, ready for some trivia?
The Gamer Dad trivia.
So we're gonna blend in some trivia in our gaming podcasts, and we'll keep the flavor text or magic card in our magic podcasts. But we got a little trivia tonight. Neither of us know what question we're going to ask each other, and we're also going to save this to the end, our answers, so we can stew on it. Jesse, I'm going to go first. I'm going to give you my trivia because I think it's pretty easy, but it might not be. So, which popular game in the United States was the first to feature a female protagonist as the main character?
I'll think about that one.
Okay. And now we do not cheat. We don't Google these. Nope. It's just you get it or you don't, and then we all learn.
So mine, I have 3. I'm just going to pick one. What was the name of the main Nintendo character before it was named Mario?
Oh my gosh. I think I know this one.
Let's see.
I think I know this one. Now, is it... I have to ask a clarifying question. Is this like a Nintendo mascot, or is this like the name of Mario before he was Mario?
The name of Mario before it was Mario.
Nah, I don't have that then. I know what Nintendo's mascot's name was, but I'm going to throw that name out there at the end anyway. All right. Oh, man. That's going to bug me. That's really going to bug me. So how did other people view video games as you were growing up? because I've got some funny stories from my older relatives.
Yeah, so like nowadays, it's video games are serious business these days. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. People literally make their living playing video games on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, it wasn't really a hobby. It was more of just like watching a TV show type thing. Like it was just something that people were doing and nobody took seriously. And it's like, are you doing that again? You're going to rot your brain.
Yep.
Sitting in front of the TV. Don't sit so close to the TV. You're going to rot your brain. My parents were very adverse to the games because they thought it was just like making me stupid. When in reality, it was probably making me smarter and making me to the person I am today because of that.
Critical thinking skills,
Yep.
solving puzzles, things like that.
At first, it was like, just a distraction type thing. And as it got on, I think it kind of became, I don't want to say who I am, but it became like my way to escape everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I had a rough childhood and it was a way to escape all of that. Like friends wise, we had two camps. You had the people that made fun of you in school because like they call you a nerd or a geek because you played video games.
Yep.
And then when you connect to someone who actually plays video games, I have lifelong friendships because of video games. So it was kind of weird because, like I said, as I started out, it was just nobody took it seriously because like it was just this stupid thing. Like, I mean, you're looking at Breakout or something on the Atari, and it's just lines.
Yeah.
There was just nothing and little tiny pixels. Like E.T. didn't look like E.T. It was a little tiny pixelated E.T. And as it got better, it started getting more serious. And then, like we mentioned Mortal Kombat, this is gonna the downfall of society because of pixelated blood on the TV. And then GoldenEye, you're shooting somebody.
I was just gonna say your first person shooters like Wolfenstein, Duke Nukem, Doom. Yep. Was Quake a first person shooter?
Quake was, yeah.
Those games, those were when
Quake,
things
I think,
really
was PC only.
Those things started giving people the flack over the violence of video games and everything. And it's funny, I never really attached to shooters in general, partially because of the motion sickness, but they're definitely stigmatized. Do you have any distinct moments where you remember your family being like really, really tough on you because you were playing or giving you crap or anything like that?
I remember just from the Nintendo, was it Sunday nights? I think it was Sunday nights at 7, MASH came on.
Okay.
And my mom always had to watch MASH. And I would be playing the Nintendo, and I would get grounded because I wouldn't hop off in time. Because we had to turn it off.
Yep.
Switch it over, unhook everything, get the TV on the right channel before it started. So it's not like we just hit a button and it's there.
Yeah, you were like competing with the cable box, right?
Yep. So I got in a lot of trouble because I was playing that until, when MASH came on. And then my bedtime went back a half an hour. So that wouldn't happen anymore.
And I distinctly remember my older relatives, the same ones that would troll me with the clothes. I remember this one time I was talking to my great aunt Teresa. God bless her. She was the best. And she'd be asking me a question. So what are these Hindindu games about? I was like, it's Nintendo, Aunt Teresa. Yeah, tell me about these Teenage Mutant Ninjas. You mean Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? I mean, it was just the poor lady. She really wanted to just understand what I was into and everything, but she couldn't grasp the fact of video games. This is someone who grew up just on the other side of the Great Depression. She so video games and computers and everything were very hard for them to grasp. So yeah, my Hindindus were problematic.
That was 100 years ago for everybody.
I spent literally. I spent a lot of time playing my Hindindus, and they didn't like that. But in the same breath, I'm going to be honest with you. I was outside quite a bit. So,
yeah.
I mean, our generation wasn't trapped in front of a TV. So,
Nope.
So for me, the crap that I got was mostly, these are too expensive, make different birthday or Christmas gift choices or whatever. And it got to the point where I had to absolutely convince them that if you get me a single video game, I'm going to be perfectly happy. If you get me Chrono Trigger for Christmas, I don't care what else you get. I don't care if Santa brings me nothing after that. It's just what I want. Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, and like you said, like when I say we played games and stuff like that, we'd stay over and play games at night. like the day we were outside the entire day.
Yeah.
Like we would get up 8 o'clock in the morning, we'd leave, and we would not come back until dark.
Yep.
And then we would play video games.
Yep. Yep. And that's very different nowadays too. So Jesse, think back, comb your memory. What were some of the hardest video games you played, and what console were they on?
Man, I mean,
and we're excluding your Souls like games and everything that are modern times.
I mean, obviously, I mentioned it before. Pitfall on the Atari was absolutely impossible.
Mm-hmm.
The original Mario Brothers, that was hard.
That's hard for a 6-7-year-old.
Yeah, it's still hard today. Like I have emulators on everything, and it's still hard today.
Yeah.
Man, there's so many. But so remember Killer Instinct?
Oh yeah. That was supposed to compete with Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Then nowadays I put everything on the easiest difficulty level.
Mm-hmm.
Back then I put it on the hardest difficulty level, so maybe that's why it was so hard.
Yeah.
And then so this isn't a console, but I think it was called NASCAR Racing or NASCAR Season 2003 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the earlier NASCAR games, because I was really big into racing games.
Right.
Those were incredibly tough.
Like I still think the NASCAR games are tough because
it's funny because nowadays they're more arcadey. Whereas
that was more simulation.
This was like hardcore simulator. Like one little like you take the wrench in the back and you raise your track bar on a pit stop and it completely changes everything. Nowadays, none of that stuff matters.
True.
So those are like that, and this is. I never was good at Smash Brothers. Never. To this day, I'm still not good at Smash Brothers. Like the only time I'd ever do any good in there, it would be in college when we're all high and like high off our minds on weed. Then I would possibly win. But other than that, I never was good at Smash Brothers.
Oh, that's so funny. I called it Mash Brothers or Super Smashed Brothers because we only played it drunk. I was never very good at those games either. Like I tried to play. What was the last one on the Switch? The two ones ago. Was it Melee?
I think so. I have it for the Switch.
Yeah,
it was terrible.
I never play it because it's too much. Like you need to learn about iframes and other things like that if you want to be good at those games. What's an iframe? Like a moment in time where your character is invincible because of a certain character animation or action that they're doing. Like people who get good at those games
from a web design perspective, because there's iframes in web design.
That's invincible. But yeah, I mean, so for me, do you remember games like Ghosts and Goblins?
No.
So you're the knight Arthur and it's a side scroller. You only take 2 hits before you die. And there was another game called Karnov, which was like a Russian dude. Big dude, and he blew fireballs, and it was just like that. 2 hits and you die. Karnov was amazing. I played the crap out of that game because I couldn't let it beat me. Yeah, that's a fun one. If you watch and the speed run, the tool assisted speed run on it is insane. But one of the best things about Karnov was the music was delightful to play. I remember my father and I playing Karnov so much that
oh my god. The big muscular guy?
Yeah. Well, he's kind of got a Buddha belly.
Yep.
Bald head, mustache, breathes fire. And we got to the final boss, and we couldn't beat the game because we couldn't push the buttons fast enough, and we couldn't dodge it well enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the game that caused us to get a turbo controller.
Those things are such cheats back then, man.
That was the game that forced us to get a turbo controller. And guess what? It didn't help. We still couldn't beat the game. The last guy killed us every time. To this day, I don't think I've beaten that game. But games like Ghosts and Goblins, Karnov, the Mario Brothers games, to your point, the platformers, they were really hard for me. I was never that good at them. Super Mario Brothers 2, I don't think I got to the final levels very often in that. Super Mario 3 I beat eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
But Super Mario World was the first one that I just kind of organically got through start to finish without, putting it down for a long time, coming back. It was probably Yoshi. He helped us out, but
yeah.
Super Mario World was the first Mario game that I beat like normally. And there were some other games like The Guardian Legend, which was really freaking hard back on the NES days. That game is awesome. If you've never heard of The Guardian Legend, that game was amazing. It's a Gradius style top down shooter, but then in between levels you are in like a side scroller navigating different areas to get to different zones and everything. And it was so much fun, but it was so hard because the amount of stuff flying at you on the screen. And it wasn't one hit and you're dead, thankfully. You had a power bar and you could max out your health and everything. That game was so hard. But I spent a lot of time playing that game. That's another game I wrote codes down for because you get passwords and everything. The games were hard. Games were very hard.
I don't want to say they weren't meant to be beat, but they had a definite end.
Mm-hmm.
Where today everything's about replayability, and there wasn't really a whole lot of replayability with games back then. Because if you beat it, like there wasn't any Easter eggs. Mostly, like the first couple of games, there was no. The first couple of like systems and stuff, there was no Easter eggs. It was just the game.
Well, the first Easter egg was in an Atari game, right? It was. Why can't I think of the name of the game with the first Easter egg? I'm gonna have to Google that now, chat.
Google this first Easter egg in games. Adventure, yep. Atari game Adventure. A hidden room containing a message created by Warren Robinette.
Yep. And you had to do some weird stuff.
A single gray pixel in a specific location.
Yep. You had to do some weird stuff to get that. But you're right. Easter eggs weren't really a thing. You know, the only reason I replayed the crap out of games is because I was good at them. Like the Mega Man games, excluding Mega Man 1, that game was freaking hard. Mega Man 2, 3, I replayed them to death. I pick them up, play a few hours, beat the game, and be like, yes.
Yeah, you know, we would have games like Mario where like my friends and I we'd have competitions to see how fast we could get through a level.
Yep, I got challenged in college. It never happened to do a speed run on The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. And I was like, you do not want to challenge me on this. I will beat the pants off you. And I was older. You know,
I remember one of my friends' rooms, we had like paper on the wall where we would write down our times and stuff.
Some of the games I got most competitive with were Gran Turismo games.
I was super competitive with racing games. Like I was, even today, I am probably, and I'm not kidding, I'm probably one of the best I know about racing games, the people I know. Like I am really good at racing
games. You would probably beat me.
Even in like real life, like driving go-karts, I'm always the best.
Yeah. When Matt from our play group was down with his family 2 years ago now, we went to the go-karts and his wife smoked us both.
Oh, really? Carrie?
She was a good second ahead of me.
Wow.
Per lap. And I was like 2 seconds ahead of Matt. And we were hauling ass. And she killed us.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know what is going on here. All I could think of is that me and Matt were just heavier. You know, we were like the Wario and Donkey Kong from Mario Kart, the heavier carts.
And she was Princess Peach.
Because it wasn't making sense because I thought I was clocking really good laps, but man, she smoked us. It was so funny. And those things don't have power steering, by the way.
No, it's hard to steer them.
Yeah. I NASCAR drivers are the same with those cars. Like, you got to be in shape. I was like out of breath after some
NASCAR
laps.
cars have power steering.
Oh, they do now?
They do, yep.
But
okay. The power steering goes. And when it goes, the driver's like, that was the hardest thing I've ever done.
They're sawing on that wheel, yeah.
So how do you consume information about games back then and then now games today? Like, obviously, big difference.
Right. So we didn't have the luxury of the internet or your IGNs or anything. So again, for me, it was TV commercials. Saturday morning cartoons was prime territory for video game advertisements and things. Also, Jesse, do you remember the little-known TV show Captain N the Game Master?
No.
Okay. So if you ever want to be entertained, first and foremost, it's on my Plex. I have the entire series before they canceled it. But that was like one giant Nintendo advertisement.
Captain
that was
the word N, or letter N. It's a giant Game Boy. Look at that.
It was unlicensed. Like, you could tell it was a knockoff because none of the characters were like perfectly accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like Mega Man in there and Kid Icarus, Mother
Oh man.
Brain, Eggplant Wizard, King Hippo. It was a bad guy.
Oh, I
It's
gotta go to your
awesome.
text and look.
It's awesome. But I mean, that was like a Nintendo advertisement, unlicensed again. I think it got canned because they got hit with like a C&D or something.
Oh, they probably did. They probably did.
I can't validate that. I'd have to Google it, but it just stopped abruptly after an episode. But they'd go into different video game worlds like Bayou Billy or Kid Icarus or Mega Man or stuff like that. And it was pretty fun to watch. So, you know, that's partially how I consume things, and the Nintendo powers that I was talking about. That helped me decide what games I was going to get. But like information, that was hard to come by. Talk to your friends, hearsay. You remember there was like Killer Instinct, for example. You remember Orchid. They're like, you can get her naked.
Yep.
You can't.
No, you can't. It was just rumors.
Yeah. But that's what we had to go off of as kids. That's what it was. Yeah. And even during that was days of early internet. Like you could what was I using for a search engine back then? Alta
AOL,
Vista?
probably. Alta Vista, AOL, what had a search engine?
Dogpile?
Dogpile, yep.
Yeah, I mean, that was the best we had.
I'm thinking with the early search engines. Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves. Remember
Ask Jeeves. And then Jeeves,
Yahoo,
Jeeves got riddled with like spyware.
Lycos, InfoSeek.
Oh my gosh, Lycos. Yep.
Alleyweb, Dogpile is on there. MSN, Hotbot. My God, all these search engines before Google.
And they led you to a GeoCities made website with.
I had many Angel Fire websites,
Angel
GeoCities
Fire
websites. Yep.
So Jesse, I mean, TV commercials was
TV
that
commercials.
the best way you could consume information about new games? Like
that and video and magazines. Like I would get, and my friends would get video game magazines along with like.
Did you get like what was it? Game Informer? That was another one,
Game
right?
Informer. Like we'd alternate. Like back then, I'd alternate between that and like Inquest
and
the other Magic duelists.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd alternate between those. Like if I went to the store with my dad or something, or my parents, I could get a magazine, and then I'd either get Inquest Duelist, or I'd get a Game One, and then that would say, oh, this came out ages ago, a couple months ago. This is coming out soon. Circle it.
Put a pin in it. Hope that someone will gift it for you. Man.
Yeah, but between that, like the commercials and stuff and the magazines, that was it. Because there wasn't really, other than going into the physical store itself and looking on the walls.
Yeah. I mean, that was always an option if we got our parents to drive us out somewhere. Can we go to Toys R Us? I remember getting the first Pokemon game for my Game Boy that way.
Pokemon Red or Blue?
I chose Blue. I
chose Red.
I wanted to get Pokemon Blue. And I've been hooked to Pokemon ever since, unfortunately, or fortunately. But the last games have been kind of underwhelming, like Scarlet and Violet. Different podcast topic there. So how about when you got stuck in a video game, Jesse? Like you played a lot of single player games.
That's where the magazines come in.
Okay.
And back then there was no internet. Like depending on how early we're going, there was no internet.
Yep.
So it'd either be I remember I would go in, like my parents would go to the store and they would be in the checkout lanes and I would be flipping through the magazines looking for answers to stuff.
Yep.
Or I'd ask friends at lunch in the cafeteria.
Yep.
Hey, have you got this game yet? Have you gotten past this level yet?
Yep.
Other than that, you just keep banging your head against the wall until you figure it out.
So I did all of that, and I'm not to be a one-upper. I actually called the Nintendo helpline once.
Oh, I forgot they had those.
Do you remember the Nintendo helpline?
I remember it, but I never actually did it. Did they actually walk you through it?
Yeah, I got permission to call them once.
Oh, wow.
They walked me through Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I didn't know how to get past a certain point, and they were like, well, you need to get Super Bomb. I'm like, where the hell is the Super Bomb? And they're like, well, you go here, 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 then you get this, and you drag it with you to the pyramid, and then you do this, and then you can upgrade your sword to the level 4 sword, and that's how you get the silver arrows, blah, blah, blah. I was like, holy crap. But before the Nintendo helpline, we used to go into like Borders Books and just go through the strategy guides before the clerks yelled at us, and they're like, you're going to buy it?
I used to collect those, man.
I've got strategy guides sitting behind me right now.
I think I still have strategy guides for the first 3 World of Warcrafts and the expansions, I think, somewhere.
Nice. I hacked World of Warcraft, the very first one, because all of the stuff was in a text file,
Mm-hmm.
and I just changed like arrow distance on the text file. I was just shooting across the entire map. That's the kind of crap I did as a kid. But yeah, I mean, you could call a Nintendo helpline, you talk to your friends. That was always huge.
Yep.
But yeah, we used to go into Barnes and Noble, Borders, Books, whatever, and get yelled at by the staff because we weren't buying things. Like, I remember bringing a notepad at one point for PC game King's Quest 6. Me and my cousin Dave, and he had a driver's license because he was older than me. So we drove in, grabbed the strategy guide, copied down as much as we could for where we were stuck, and left the store.
And I was a shit kid back then, but I used to rip it out of the magazine even though we weren't buying it.
Oh, no way.
And I would stuff it in my pocket.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yep.
That's something my son would do. I feel like he would do something like that. So did you have, when you were gaming, we talked a little bit about this, but did you have time limits, rules?
Oh yeah, I definitely had time limits. Like
homework
I had
first.
To my homework first. I would have a chore list. I had to do my chores first.
Mm-hmm.
And then like on the weekends or whatever, I would only be able to play games for like an hour, and then I had to go outside.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was more of like my parents just didn't want me in the house, like because I was annoying. Or whatever.
I mean, that's the thing. Like 80s parents, 90s parents, that their children were annoying. That's all it was to them. We were annoying. So it really was go outside, come back when the lights come on in the neighborhood.
I don't want you, like, I remember distinctly, I don't want to see you in the house for the entire day.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the gags, the comedian gags, right? We didn't eat. No, we ate at our neighbors' houses. Their parents fed us.
And we literally drank out of the water hose. Like, my parents, they'd lock the door. Like, my dad would lock the door. Now, granted, looking back, he was doing drug deals. So that's, a reason. But
that's a little different.
We would go to the hose and just drink out of the hose,
No, and we turned out fine. See? I had to do my homework first. That especially on a weeknight. That was definitely my rule. The problem was I hated doing homework and I just didn't do it anyway. So I ended up getting in fights with my parents over that. Like, this homework is stupid. I'm already getting an A in this class. I don't need to do homework. So I'm going to play this video game. I didn't really have
what I would do my homework in school.
Yeah.
Oh, your homework done? Yep, I already did it.
I didn't have a ton of chores because my father was, and still is to this day, very OCD about the way things are done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I distinctly remember for a little while I was allowed to mow the lawn. Allowed to.
Mm-hmm. Allowed to.
Right. Let's be clear
that was
here.
My chores. That was part of my chores.
Right. I was allowed to mow the lawn. We had a riding mower. And no sooner did I mow the entire lawn, get off the lawnmower, feel accomplished. My father tell me I mowed it the wrong way.
My dad would do that to me too.
I was like, what? No, you got to go this direction when you're going next to the driveway so you don't blow all the grass on the driveway. Otherwise, you have to blow the grass off the driveway. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I just mowed the lawn, man.
Yeah, I had a push mower, and I had a side yard that was super big, like super long, but not super wide, just very long. And then we had a back where we had a pool until a tornado put a tree through it and we had to close it. And then mowing around that, it was like a hill going up. It was in ground, and it was a giant hill going like sideways, and I had to mow that side thing. So I had to get a push mower, put it on its side, and push it around, like hoping to God it doesn't fall over on top of me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The things we had to do as kids. But to Jesse's point, we spent most of our days outside. Like, we had video games readily available to us, but and not for lack of or not for us being kicked out all the time, but I wanted to play outside with my friends. I was heavily into sports in school. I played football, I played hockey, I played lacrosse. So we were outside playing sports or roaming the neighborhood, or even sometimes late at night in our super rural area, we would play tag, and it would be across the entire neighborhood.
Oh yeah, we would too.
And I'm talking like miles to cover to play tag. Did you play Ghost in the Graveyard?
No, it was tag in the middle of the night, and I can't remember what we called it. Man, because we'd get on our bikes and we'd do the exact thing. We'd go across the entire town.
The entire town was
we're
fair
talking
game.
Miles. Yeah.
And do you think, would you let your kids do that even when they're 13, 14?
No. And we
Nowadays?
had walkie-talkies, and we would talk on the walkie-talkies.
There is
And like,
no way I'm
yeah,
letting my kid, even if he's 15 years old, doing that. Are you
I wouldn't
kidding
let
me?
my daughter right now go to the garbage by herself in the dark, and that's just like 20 feet outside my house.
Yeah, it's a different world we live in, but we did things outside. So I'm only fat because I eat a lot. I'm not fat because I sat inside playing video games all the time. I'm a former athlete.
Well, these games back then, they weren't made to consume your life.
This is also true.
Like, they were made to be a quick jolt of like fun, and then that was it. Nowadays, they make your game to have microtransactions and suck the money out of you, suck the time out of you. They weren't that. They weren't how they were made back then. That's not how they were done.
I will say, Jesse, I can tell you this. I saw my final save for Clair Obscur so that you have some hope. I did a little bit of stuff after game. I'm at 25 hours clocked and
Oh
I beat the
wow,
game.
really?
So, it's not that long. It's perfectly consumable. The game paced perfectly, so I think developers are starting to get the idea that that's their player base now. That's what they want. We don't want these grindy Ubisoft games, which is ironic because Clair Obscur was Ubisoft developers that moved on from that company, and they said, well, let's flip the script. We're not going to do 100-hour Assassin's Creed game, where that's how you get the main plot. Like Valhalla, I spent 80 plus hours before I finished the main plot of that game.
Wow. I mean, Avowed, I went through Avowed and I think it was 33 hours.
Like that's perfect.
Perfect. It was perfect. Yeah.
That's a perfect pace at this point. I used to say if I get an hour for every dollar I spent on the game, but now I don't even feel like that's necessary.
No. I want to have a good time while I'm playing it. I don't want to have to bang my head against the wall. I don't want to have to buy extra stuff to beat it.
Yep.
And maybe some replayability. Like I 100% could replay Avowed easily.
I'm replaying Clair Obscur.
Yeah, when the DLC comes out for Avowed, I will 100% reinstall it and replay it.
Yeah, for sure. So, it's funny, chat, everybody, listeners. I didn't think we'd have enough material to cover.
And here we are an hour and a half.
An hour, and here we are at an hour and a half. So as we wind down here, how did your systems progress as new ones came out? Did you stay in the same ecosystem when you got that Nintendo, or did you branch out? Did you stay loyal to a brand, or did you finally settle on a brand? Because I know where you're at today, but let's talk things through up to like second gen PlayStation, Xbox era. How did you progress?
So I was a 100% Nintendo guy until my wife bought me an Xbox 360 when we first got together in 2010.
Wow.
I had the Sega Genesis, but that was because it was given to me. I didn't get a PlayStation until the PlayStation 5.
I didn't realize that. I've known you for over 10 years. I didn't realize that.
Yep. I was, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boys, GameCube, Nintendo 64, Wii. It was all Nintendo until my wife bought me the Xbox 360. And then I bought an Xbox One, and then we got the Switch. And then I kind of went back and just was PC, 100% PC.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really play consoles much. And then, now we have the PlayStation 5. But majority of my life was Nintendo.
Nintendo ecosystem, full Nintendo with the Sega in there that was donated.
Yep.
So I started with an NES. We definitely got a Game Boy, like the old Game Boys. By the way, those weren't backlit.
No, they
You ever
were
tried
not.
playing a Game Boy in a car at night?
I remember having the light attachments to them. And remember the camera that would print stuff out?
Yep. I had a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis at the same time. And then I had nothing until a PlayStation. I didn't have a 64. I didn't have a GameCube. I moved right to PlayStation ecosystem after that. And then I got a PS2, which, by the way, I want to talk about that as an entire podcast, that generation of consoles, because I think they changed gaming as we know it even today, is that PlayStation 2 generation and the Microsoft side of things. But yeah, I didn't really branch out too much, but I did kind of mix in there with everything. And then there was I think I just got so much use out of my Game Boy and my PlayStation that I never felt the need to move on to other consoles. And I was not a PC gamer at that point. I wasn't a PC gamer until I went to college, away to college in 2004. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I am a PlayStation loyalist though. I've never owned an Xbox. I have no intention of owning any Xboxes or anything like that. It's the controllers. they're so vastly different from the PlayStation ones that my brain cannot work with those.
This is an Elite 2 controller for PC and Xbox too, but I love it. It's awesome. I can go between this and the PlayStation really easily. This is like their high end controller.
I can't do it.
Yeah, and like everything, like these, all the buttons come off, and
wow.
And you can put extra ones here on the back if you want.
PlayStation did finally come out with a controller like that, but again, I didn't spend that. So, teaser for our next video game podcast. So, looking back, including today's games, even, which console would you say had the best games, best releases, best titles, and which console influenced you and your gaming, changed your life, if you will, the most?
So, I'll start with the change in my life the most. It would probably be the Game Boy, because that allowed me to escape from everything. I could just take it with me and go wherever I wanted. I can't even imagine how many hours I spent playing Tetris. Like, as simple as it is,
toilet Tetris.
Holy cow! I had so much time. Like the Russian kind of sounding music.
Yep,
I don't know. Hundreds and hundreds of hours on that thing, but it gave me the freedom to do something, and just the only thing that was holding me back was the batteries.
Yep.
And then the best, I would probably say the GameCube.
That's a really popular one, I think. That was a great generation of consoles.
I mean, like I said, I don't have the console anymore. I still have all my favorite games. I saved the games. And and again, I'm a Buffy guy, but Buffy, Chaos Bleeds, Super Monkey Ball, Mario Kart Double Dash. Man, I have all those games. I saved them all.
Yep. So for me, it's the PlayStation 2. There were so many good role-playing games that came out for that console and everything, even though there are lots on the PlayStation, like your Final Fantasy 7s that everybody says is the best Final Fantasy, and those are only people who started Final Fantasy.
Was that the first Tomb Raider? PlayStation 1?
Yes, yeah. I think the Tomb Raider games came out on that. Nintendo had the Turok games. You remember Dinosaur Hunter?
I played Turok Dinosaur Hunter.
But the PlayStation 2 was the most influential for me, to the point where I remember renting it from the video store several times, and it required $100 deposit that you got back. But
so now I'm wondering if maybe the 64 is more influential to me, because having all those games, like I had Killer Instinct, I had Turok, I had Wave Runner, I had all, like, I probably played that more than anything.
Did you play like Zelda Ocarina of Time?
Oh yeah, Ocarina of Time. Multiple times I played through that and beat it.
No. R.I.P. in the Water Temple. That Water Temple was hell.
I have that now in my recently jailbroken 3DS.
That's so cool. So PlayStation 2 generation consoles were the most influential. I just remember the leap in graphics from PlayStation to PlayStation 2. It was exponential, because I remember looking at those games, and it's funny if you look at them now, but I remember looking at those games going, oh my God, it's so realistic.
Yep. Now it'd be like, this looks so bad.
It's so janky. Yeah.
I mean, I used to think GoldenEye looked incredibly realistic, and now I'd go to play it again, because you can emulate it on the Switch, and it's like, oh my God, this is so terrible.
It was so clunky too, and that's all that the kids played. I mean, that was the penultimate game. That was playing
like the four boxes on the screen. Don't look at my screen. Don't look at my screen.
No screen sniping.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Can we go back to those days? Just in general, especially with what I know now.
We're gonna look back and be like, okay, it only looks or feel like it's better because we had no responsibilities.
Yeah, for sure.
And now we have responsibilities. For
sure. And our own children that we need to keep alive. Okay, Jesse, wrapping up here. Back to trivia. Who was the only female or the first female protagonist in a popular game in America? Doesn't mean it was an American-made game. I'm just talking released to the United States.
Well, knowing that you didn't play Atari or any of that, I'm not going back there.
Do you want me to give you a hint, lock it down to a console?
Was it Metroid?
Oh, you got it.
It was
Samus Aran.
Samus, yep.
Samus Aran.
I was gonna say Princess Peach, but I'm like, I don't think she had her own game until later.
I was pointing to my tattoo of Samus on my forearm.
I played the hell out of the Metroid games.
They were so good.
So good. So
Super
good.
Metroid is one of my top games of all time.
I'm looking forward to getting, if I ever get the Switch too, playing the new Metro game with the
New
Switch
Metroid Prime.
controllers on like
Yeah.
the mouse.
I bet I'd get motion sick playing that on a Switch.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. All right,
So
so
for me,
Jesse's question.
What was the name of the main Nintendo character before it was named Mario?
So I don't know this, but I remember Nintendo's mascot was named Nestor because it was NES.
Yep. Nestor
Mario.
is actually a playable character in Smash Brothers.
Oh, Jesus. Is it really?
Yep.
That's so funny. It's not like something like Joe the Plumber or something like that.
Nope.
I feel like I should know this, but I'm going to let myself down. So I don't have an answer for you.
Jumpman.
Jumpman. Let's go.
Jumpman. And bonus one, when did we first see Mario?
Well, Mario was in the Donkey Kong game. Yeah, that I remember. Jumpman.
Jumpman.
That's something. Hey, listen, everyone. If you like this podcast, we're going to do more video game podcasts. It might not all be reminiscing back in the day, but we're going to talk about things like modern games, influential consoles, games that changed our lives, things like that. We're going to try and do this every other week. We're going to see if we can keep this pace. Jesse has promised that he can talk forever about video games.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to hold him to it. Obviously, we've been yapping for over an hour and a half here, but if you like this, come hang out with us again. In 2 weeks, we'll have our Magic the Gathering podcast where we are going to fix Bracket 3 for Commander. That's right. We're going to solve it.
Thanks. Yeah.
We're going to fix it right there for you. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Jesse, I had a lot of fun going back in the day. I'll say it one more time with you here. And I hope to do a little bit more of this again. So thanks for hanging out. Be awesome out there, and we'll see you next time.